Okay, so today we are going to use the Sweet Talk palette by Colourpop. It looks like this, for those of you who haven't seen it. This is a beautiful palette using the holographic packaging, which is really nice. Also, magnetic closure, which is really nice to have because then you don't have to worry about everything coming out of it, especially when you're traveling. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so the first shade in the palette that I'm going to go in with is the shade, let's see, how do I want to go about this? We're going to use the shade Work It today. So it's like a nice camel brown shade. So I'm going to go ahead and just start warming up the crease, going back and forth. I am using a Morphe M518 brush. And I've already done my brows off camera. I just figured that wasn't very exciting, so no need to show you guys that portion. I don't want this video to be like a gazillion years old or a gazillion minutes long. Sorry. It's hard to talk and do a tutorial. So I'm just kind of going back and forth in my crease, warming it up. And this, I'm just going to keep building until I like the, how pigmented the lid is. Like that. The next shade in the palette that I'm going to go in with is this shade called ICYMI. So this is like a really nice, pretty, like, terracotta peachy shade. And I'm going to use a Sigma E38 to go ahead and just add, to use this to add the shade. Hi Phoebe. And I think I am going to go in and do a halo eye today. Why not? So yeah, I'm going to keep this somewhat rounded in the eye. And then just to blend these two shades together, which I've already done here, is I'm going to take the shade Meadow. So it looks like this. Focus. There we go. These are very pigmented, so a little goes a long way, so just keep that in mind when applying. I did want to start to by doing the eyeshadow first before I did my face makeup, just because when I used this palette yesterday, I had noticed that there was a lot of fallout with some of the glitter shades that I used, and I didn't want to have glitter flecks all over my face, so I did the makeup first. Okay. So the next shade in the palette that I'm going to go in with is this shade called West Side. So this is like another brown shade. It's a little bit darker than Work It. And I'm going to go ahead and just start adding it to the lower crease. And this is just going to help define the crease. And I'm just going to keep adding it to the lid until I'm happy with the depth of how deep it is. So just going back and forth. Okay, so the next shade in the palette that I'm going to go in with is now this shade called Feel Free. So this is the darkest shade in the palette. And I'm going to go ahead and just start adding this to the outer and inner corner of my eye. And I'm kind of using a combination of two brushes to do this for my eye. One to just place the color and pack it on, and then the other to help blend it through. That. And I'm going to go ahead and add it to the inner corner as well. I do like using like a smudger brush to do the inner corner, because of the way that the brush is angled, I can really get in there and not make it just look like there's pigment there. It's a little bit more defined and shaped. So this is just going to help pack on the color. And then just going in with the blending brush and just kind of helping to diffuse it a little bit into the other shades. Okay, so what I have done is I actually started with this is the Super Shock Shadow by them. This is the first time that I believe that they've ever added a Super Shock Shadow into a palette. Yesterday when I tried using it, I had a hard time using it as my inner corner highlight, which was kind of a bummer, but that's fine because I ended up using their Super Shock Pearlized highlighter, which worked great. And so what I did was kind of using it as like a base. I went ahead and I applied it here to the center of the lid. And then going in with my finger again, I went in with the shade Melody, which looks like this. It's like a gold duochrome-y kind of shade. Some certain reflections, it's like you could see some of the pink in there. You see some gold, of course. And I'm just patting it on to the lid so it's looking like that. And I'm just going to pack it until like I'm happy with how pigmented it is in the center here. And then just going over it with the Super Shock Shadow in side to side again and making sure that the center is really brightened up. So you could add like a little bit more dimension if you want. Again, I used the Super Shock Shadow and I just applied it on top again, just in the center, and it just gives it more of a three-dimensional look by applying it that way. And then what I did was I reapplied Feel Free on the outer corner and the inner corners of my eye to kind of just touch up, you know, whatever pigment ended up getting lost from just the process here. And then another way you can also add a little bit more dimension is by adding ICYMI and just dragging it from the darkest shade to the center. And this is going to help give it a little bit more of a gradient effect, so the lightest in the center and then it just gets gradually darker. Again, using a smudge brush is really nice to do that with because you can help drag and blend the colors pretty nicely when doing the halo eye technique. Guys, I really need to get more of this stuff. I'm so sad. I love this primer for my skin. So again, my skin type is like slightly dry, slightly oily, and I love this primer. This is one of my favorite primers because it does help the longevity of the foundation for me. And I love how like polished my skin looks after I've used my foundation. And you know, I'm not a big moisturizer person during the daytime, and the reason for that is because of my slightly dry, slightly oily skin. So this is like the perfect combo without like overdoing it. And you know, the last thing you want is to have too much hydration because then you end up with like a greasy mess. So I'm going to go ahead and go in with the Born This Way foundation by Too Faced. I'm going to do one pump first. And so the way I like to do this is like I'll dot my face in all the areas, just kind of dot, and then just start buffing it into the skin. And I like this coverage that, you know, the Born This Way foundation gives. You could totally sheer it out by adding Fix Plus or build it up even more if that's your preference. I think I'm just going to go in with one pump today though. So quiet. My little boy is asleep. He's been not feeling too great, and my husband is out of town at the moment, but so the house is just not the same without, you know, all the activities we usually have here. See, it just gives like a really nice finish. That's what I love about this foundation. Alright, so I'm going to use the Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. I have two shades. I have the shade Swan, which is really light on me, and then I have the shade Almond, which is light. I know this is really weird, but like I really like my nose to be kind of like brighter. So I go in with Swan, and then I do like the center, like the brightest, and then like I'll put like maybe like a couple of dots here and there with this one, and then go in with Almond. Because the last thing I want is to look like dang, this girl like put way too much lightness in that area. So I am not going to do that to myself. I'm going to go in with a damp beauty sponge. This is the Nancy, one of their sponges. I do have a code. I'll list it down to help you save 10%. And I like it because they are very affordable. And they last a long time. I think I've had this for months. And look at, it's still in great condition. Now I'm just going in with the Ethereal setting powder, sorry. It's always hard for me to pronounce that. And I'm going in with the Morphe and Jeffree Star brush JS2. And I like this brush because it's a little bit like on the flimsy side, which I like because then when you pack on the powder, it's like just lightly pressing it in and it's not like adding coverage, you know what I'm saying? And also what I like about this brush is like if I had a little bit of fallout, I just go boop and it comes right off without interrupting any of the foundation that you've just done. I always hate that. Okay. So yesterday I had used the Super Shock Cheek blush by Colourpop, and I used the shade Growth Flirt, which is a really great shade if you're looking for something like for everyday, you know, because in this it looks like it's like really powerful, but it's not. It's actually something that you can really easily blend into the skin, which is really nice. But since I've already used that, I kind of want to go in with another shade. So this is the shade Get Laid. I really liked how this looked online. It was something that I just didn't have in my collection. So we're going to use that. And let's see, which brush am I going to use? You do want to use like a synthetic brush. It'll really help when applying this kind of a product. Let's try this one. God, I hope it's the right one. Okay, so I'm using an IT Cosmetics brush. I don't know which one it is. The number like totally came off, but it is a synthetic brush. And I'm just gonna go ahead and just apply it to the skin and see, like, you know, it's given me something, but it's not like you would think that it would be. You could totally build it up, as you could see here though. And I am applying this before I do my bronzer. Or when if I decide to bake underneath here, I don't want to like disturb this makeup and blush that I just did. Now let's just say like I did way too much and it was so bright that I was like, oh god, I don't want to go out looking like a clown. You can take your translucent loose powder and just buff it into the skin, which is probably what I'm going to do. This side I went a little bit too crazy, but I love this color. I think it's very flattering on my skin tone. So I'm like I have warm undertones, so I tend to gravitate to a lot of corals, honey shades. Okay, so just taking a foundation brush. This is by Nancy, And let's just say like, oh gosh, I don't like that, I put too much. Just buff it into the skin. That'll help to shear it out. No worries, but still giving you that really pretty flush of color. So these are really fun. These are the Super Shock Cheek Pearlized Highlighters. I got the shade Lunch Money. Now this is not part of their spring collection, but I really like it a lot because it's like not blinding, you know, and it's best to use this with your fingers. I have experienced that. I didn't like trying to do this with a brush. I didn't think that the products, like what it's known for, which is this very unique wet texture, you weren't getting that out of the product when using the brush. So use your finger, and I'm just going in with the high points of my face here, upper cheekbone right here. I have a bone right here. I'm just adding it with my finger, and you could totally build this up. So if you're like, oh, you know what, it's not that blinding, well, you can totally add more into the skin. I'm gonna add also some in my Cupid's bow, like there. And then I think I'm going to go down the bridge of my nose as well, because I'm going to go in and contour anyway, but I want to put this on first. You don't have to do it this way, but I like to do it this way because this is a powder and the other products were more of a cream. I wanted to do the powder last, you know, so that it wouldn't, you know, look like such like a muddy mess. So I'm going in with the Too Faced Chocolate Soleil Matte Bronzer, and I'm just going to go ahead and start warming up the complexion using that product. And then just to define a little bit of my cheekbone. So I don't have much of a cheekbone on this side. This one seems to be a little bit more prominent. And I'll also put it underneath my lip, so what that does is it gives me more of a fuller lip effect. And then I'm going to contour here. Now when you contour along your jawbone, just make sure that you buff really well. Looks so silly with a line there. And let's just say I went too low with the contour, which in some ways I think I did. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a translucent powder or a setting powder, and then just go in with one of your sponges. And then just, this will just kind of help correct that area. I think I'll just leave it on like that. Alright, and then now we're just going to go ahead and contour the nose. You don't have to do this, but I like the look for me because I have a bump in my nose, and so when I contour it, I feel like it helps to make it more straight looking. So I am using the JD Weighty 180 brush. I love this brush so much. It's by Luxie, and it's definitely made this process a lot easier. I'm just drawing it downward and kind of tapering in as well. So you can see like where my bone is, it's like more, it protrudes out a little bit. I don't know, I'd be a little scared to do like get a surgery and do a nose job, but if I were to ever consider it, I think the one doctor I'd let touch my nose is that Dr. Nassif. Have you guys ever watched, what is that called? It's that show on E. Botched. And I love that show. But that's who I would go to, because he's been doing it for a long time and that's his specialty. And you know, I mean, it's your face. The last thing you want to do is like just go to Joe Schmo and then they fuck up your face forever. Oops. Sorry. I went ahead and I added Lunch Money as well to the inner corner of my eye. And let's just go ahead and finish up the eye look. So let me find the right brush. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use this dark shade Feel Free first. I like to work my way backwards when doing my eyes because everything's going to get blended out anyway. So I'm just adding it there. Okay, and I have attached it to this outer shadow here on my upper lid. Just want to make sure that everything looks blended. Okay, so for blending, I am going to use, which brush? I have a Nancy brush that I absolutely love and I always talk about it, and I need another one because this one, for whatever reason, always gets hidden. Hold on. Okay, so for blending this out, I'm gonna go ahead and use this shade called Meadow. Here's my Nancy blending brush for those of you curious. I like it because it's like the right stiffness and it doesn't like pack on so much color. I always hate that when a blending brush packs on way too much color and then it just doesn't make the job easy. Okay. I'm actually going to add a combination too. I'm going to add ICYMI as well to the lower lash. And I'm just going to do this to the outer corner of the eye like that. So it is giving me a little bit more of a smokier vibe, but that's okay. All right, so next. So I don't necessarily want this to be like so bold on the top lash line, so I'm going to use a brown shade, and I'm using the Rimmel London Exaggerate Waterproof Eye Definer in the shade brown, and so it's going to give still like some depth there, but I just didn't want it to be too much. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sloppily put this on. You do need to kind of move fast too because this is waterproof. So I'm going to do that, and then just taking a blend, like a brush like this, a tapered one, or even a flat definer brush will work too, but I don't see it. I'm going to use that shade Feel Free, tap the brush, and I'm going to use this basically to set and also soften this. Actually, hold on to that. And then I'm going to flick it a little bit. I just didn't want it to be like so black there, so it just gives the lash line a little bit more of a fuller lash look. So as you can see, I don't have anything here. So for mascara, I'm going to go ahead and use the NARS Climax mascara. I like it, you know, but I don't love it. I have other favorites, but you know, I've only used this like a handful of times, so, but I do notice there's a little bit of flakiness happening here with this mascara. I'm not a fan of that. I like that it gives me length, I like that it gives me lift as well, but I don't like the flakiness. I don't think anybody does. No. Alright. Okay, so I went ahead and used setting spray. I really should have done this before the mascara application, but that's my bad. Okay, I'm also, before I put the lipstick on, I want to put this Gimme Brow product. I really like this. So this is by Benefit. I'm in the shade 3, and I just want to add a little bit of featheriness into the brow. So it's looking a little more natural. But I do like to use this product by itself because it makes them look a little bit thicker, and I like that. I think it gives a really nice flattering effect to the brows, as you can see, like that. And then last but not least, let's get that lipstick. What color am I going to use? So yesterday I used the shade You're Thriving, so maybe we'll do Tea Time. So this is a really nice shade actually. So it looks like this. Very wearable, but it has just a little something more. Just want to make sure there's a blot. Well guys, here is the final look. Yeah, so it is very like sultry, you know, this could definitely like be something you can do in the fall, but this is a spring palette, so you know what's nice about this palette is you can, you know, go from like a very daytime wearable look to, well, that's also subjective, so to like more of a sultry, dramatic, let's going out kind of look. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed today's tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!